Good morning, Jai Guru. A warm welcome to Nayaswamis, Jyotish and Devi ji. Not just from me, but all of India and Kolkata. It's such a blessing to even see you, and we look forward to a wonderful conversation with yourselves today. We have a very blessed topic, the liberating power of Guru Seva. And the last month that we had a conversation with you was the day before Master's birthday. And you both mentioned uh, almost completion of your books, The Heart of Seva by Jyotish ji, and Divine Awakening, the mission of Paramhansa Yogananda and his disciple Swami Kriyananda by Devi ji. All these topics weave in together almost as we feel Master and Swamiji's light guiding us as we start our discussion today. Our pranams to you. I request you both to start us with a prayer. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. We want to first greet everyone. It's so nice that we're able to make these monthly connections like this, and we very much look forward to being with you. We'll be there in September through the end of October into November. Let's begin with the prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Guruji, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Beloved Master, beloved Swamiji, we lay the flowers of our devotion gratefully and lovingly at thy feet. Help us to merge with thee through our meditation, and help us lose the ego by serving thee. These two parts of the path, service and meditation, we offer ourselves into the light of both of them. Help that light dissolve all ignorance, all darkness, all sense of separation from thee. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So, Jyotish and Devi ji, just to start the discussion, that sadhana and seva, as you mentioned in the prayer, and attunement to our beloved masters, it really forms the core of our path as disciples, and one strengthens another. Would you like to just start us with touching upon the topic of Guru Seva? Then we'll go into the questions one by one.
Perfect. We'd be thrilled. You know, the core of the core is attunement to the Guru. If the Guru had told us that our job in this life was to be in a cave in the Himalayas, that's what we would be doing. If he had, as he had in the past, if he had incarnated and as a warrior, Arjuna, William the Conqueror, uh, King Ferdinand, all of those incarnations, he incarnated as a warrior with a particular mission to help the world evolve. And in that life, we would have served him in a very different way. But in this life, he has incarnated, as we know, as what I think of as the guru of Dwapara Yuga. Certainly, this line of masters, our line of masters, has come to usher in this age of Dwapara Yuga. So, regardless of the life we are living in any particular incarnation, the place, the language, the conditions. Nonetheless, the core of our spiritual path is attunement to the Guru, attunement to his will. Ultimately, what will liberate us is not any technique, not even service or Kriya Yoga. Those are all helpful. What liberates us is dissolving the ego. And the dissolving of the ego is done by ever deepening attunement to God and the Guru, of attuning our God-given free will to the divinely guided will of the Guru. And so, with that having been said, so that we understand that attunement is really the core essence of what we need to do in this life, what Master has brought us is a path that he said is a combination of meditation and service. Meditation, obviously, we have the whole teaching that he's brought, how to meditate, the methods of meditation leading up to Kriya Yoga, and then a whole lifestyle that he brought, a how to live lifestyle that helps us live in attunement with the natural laws and also helps us live, therefore, in attunement with the will of God, of how to live a healthy, happy, successful life. All of these are, none of these does the Guru say, oh, leave all that behind, it's all delusion. He says, as long as we're in this life, then we need to live this life successfully and in attunement with God's will, as higher will. So let's come now a little bit to the balance of meditation and service. So meditation, Master said, defined meditation as deep concentration on God or on one of the aspects of God, one of the 8 aspects. I won't go into that because most of you know them. But if we think of meditation not as a technique, but as a state of consciousness in which we are merged into the consciousness of God or the consciousness of one of those 8 aspects, light, if we see ourselves as light, if we feel ourselves as the power of Om, the vibration of Om, creation, joy, love, any of those. So if we think of meditation defined as merging in one of those, then service then becomes a kind of meditation because service can help us merge into love. We'll touch on this later, but one of the most powerful aspects of meditation is the opening of the heart through the connecting, through the caring, through the being a channel of God's grace to people who are in some way going to be benefited by our service. And so if we can act as a channel, as Master said, the channel is blessed by that which flows through us. So we can see these two, meditation and service, as a balanced path because, as I say in my book, even the most dedicated meditator spends far more time in activity than he does in his meditation room. And so we do in our path need to meditate, and we need to meditate daily and deeply. But what are we going to do with the rest of our hours? If we attune ourselves to the Guru and act as the channel of the Guru's love and desire to help others, then we will be in tune with the Guru through that service. And through that service and attunement with the Guru, the result for us individually will be that it gradually and powerfully dissolves the constrictions, the cage of ego that we find ourselves in. So really, Master gave us such a beautiful and balanced path, being a combination of service and meditation.
Thank you, Jyotish. I also want to say what a joy it is to be with all of you, our Guru Bhais in India. And, you know, we get to spend several months a year in India, but the time when we're in America, we never stop thinking about being in India. It's our spiritual home. So I want to share also a little bit, and then we'll have Guru Priya ask us some questions. But as Jyotish introduced the theme that our Guruji, Yoganandaji, was, as Swami called him, the avatar of Dwapara Yuga. And what is Dwapara Yuga? The age of energy. It's the breaking down of form. In Kali Yuga, God was seekers of God. They would close off in a little monastery or convent and try to be very self-negating outwardly, physically. And that was Kali Yuga. That was the form of that age. But Dwapara Yuga is the age of energy, where forms begin to dissolve. Religions, the forms of religions are not that important. The essence of them, the truth of them, is important. And so we come to the subject then of seva and meditation. And just to give you an example, in the early days of Ananda, there was a man who lived here, and he was sort of an egotistical man, but he would meditate 5 and 6 and 7 hours a day. He never did any service, but he kind of thought he was better than everyone because he was just always meditating. There was another woman who, and Swami gave her the name Seva. She was a great soul, a great soul. She passed away a few years ago. She was a little bit older than we are. And she said to Swami, I can't meditate very well. He said, don't worry about it. You just serve. And what he didn't say, but which I'm sure was true, I will meditate for you. Seva was one of the pillars. His woman Seva was one of the pillars of our community. This other man who was very kind of proud of himself, he left. We don't really know what became of him. But in this age of energy, we have to use our physical energy and our mental energy. Otherwise, we won't be able to rise to the level of Master's vibration. And so a combination, Master said, your meditation should be seva and your seva should be meditation. So there isn't a separation there, really. It's just about different forms of energy. And when we're serving, and then we'll have Guru ask us more. She has a wonderful list of questions that she actually did a lot of, study to create them. But just to understand that in serving, it's self-transcendence. And one more story, there was a young man who was here in the early days. He was mid-20s. When he was a teenager, he had had cancer, and he had one of his legs had to be amputated near the hip. And so he had a prosthetic leg. And so we had planned a big work day. We have several times a year at Ananda Village, we call it Rajasi Day, and everybody comes out and everybody serves together. So we've been planning this for weeks. And this man, his name was John, he took the job. He said, I'm going to go up. We were shingling the main buildings at the Expanding Light, for those of you who have been there. And the day dawned of Rajasi Day. It was pouring rain, pouring rain. And all the projects we had planned, everybody was a little, well, can we do them? But we gathered together in a great big circle in the common area. And we said, okay, let's go serve, rain or no rain. And John had to go up. We said, John, maybe you shouldn't go up on the roof. It's very slick and with only one leg. And he said, no, I want to do it. And so he was up there all day long, serving and hammering in the shingles on the roof. At the end of the day, he came down and he said, there's no way on earth I could have done that without God's grace. And so by putting himself in that flow of Seva, he felt Master's presence with him, protecting him and inspiring him the whole day. So Seva is just, it's the opportunity to let God flow through you in an outward way. Meditation is the opportunity to let God flow through you in a more inward way, but they're not really different. So I think that's enough of introductory remarks. And now we go to our dear sweet sister, Gurpriya, who has some questions that she wants to ask us.
Thank you for starting the discussion on that note of attunement and the stories. I mean, Ananda Village and all of you, it's the concepts are so real because people are living the teachings and leading by example. So, thank you. You know, we are in a time when Ananda's presence globally is in an expansive state, and also in India, Master's light is reawakening, it's strengthening, and hundreds of us disciples, we are trying to be in tune, trying to act as pure channels, which is why we felt that this topic is very pertinent to our discipleship. I want to share with everyone a quote by Master and then present the first question to you. Master says, in severing yourself from egoic involvement in any action that you perform, you will have cut the Gordian knot of delusion. This is the state of the Jivan Mukta, one who is free from inside even while living in this world. Being inwardly free, nothing he does can ever affect him again. A very aspirational note for all of us, for our Guru. My first question then is, what is Seva? What qualifies any particular action as an offering of Seva? And how does it purify and dissolve the ego? You know, when we first come to Ananda, maybe it can be a perception in the beginning that any activity that is of volunteering, that is to do something, can be a seva. But as we grow into the teachings, we start to realize that it is really a sadhana in itself, a meditation, and we want to have a deeper relationship with seva itself. So I just want to share with everyone that I was preparing for this talk and listening to a satsang by Jyotish and Devi ji, and where they mentioned the work in Vrindavan, where hundreds of widow mothers and several other community members are served by Paramhansa Yogananda Charitable Trust. And Jyotish ji mentioned this, that we serve as the heart of Babaji and Krishna, bringing into the light the essence of the offering, how much of the love of the heart is given in serving the mothers. And Devi ji's line, Seva is love in action. So I just want to hold those two lines up as we ask you that question. What is the nature of Seva and how does it purify us?
Okay, well, I'll start perhaps, and then obviously Devi ji will have her own take on it, answer. Any act in which we even have a little thought of helping another person is an act of seva. And it might be very clouded with ego, but nonetheless it is. Master tells the amusing story or illustration about a woman who goes to the lower astral realms, goes to hell, and or is being judged. and the person judging where she should go is looking for good works, good deeds that she's done. And there's page after page of blank pages, no good deeds, nothing that's unselfish. And then finally he comes to a footnote of a blank page that says at one time she gave a rotten carrot to a beggar. And that was the only good deed that she had done her entire life. But the Deva said, if you hold on to that carrot, that good deed, it will raise you up into the higher realms. And so she thought, well, this is a good thing. And so she was holding on to the carrot, and certainly, sure enough, it began to raise her up. But then somebody else grabbed onto her, and another person grabbed onto that next person. And she looked down and she saw that not only was her rotten carrot raising her up, but it was raising up all these other people. And she got so upset by that, she let go of the carrot to push them off, and of course fell back down. Well, it's an amusing story that Master tells, but I use it as the illustration that any good deed, anything that tries to help another person is an act of seva. But there's a very, very wide spectrum of seva. One could say the same is true of meditation. Sitting for 30 seconds and trying to calm your mind is a little meditation, but there's a vast spectrum of getting better and better. So coming back to the essence of what qualifies as seva, any act of intentional act of helping others is an act of seva. But there's a whole mixture. We might be doing that seva because we're expected to do it, and it's only an act of kind of, one might say, social conformance to show others that, yes, I too save. But we're really thinking of ourselves. It might be that we're wanting recognition for our seva. It may be that we're hoping to gain something, position by serving. Any mixture of self-interest that's in the seva, it's still seva, but it taints it. And so if we think of a pitcher of water that has some silt in it, that silt pollutes the water. The silt, in this case, seva is a pure act. The thought of ego, the thought of self-benefit pollutes that water. And so what we want to do is gradually get rid. It is the nature of the ego to want to think about itself, to want to protect itself, to see itself as the doer. In fact, ahankara, which is the state of ego, the meaning of the term is I do. And so any thought of I do is a polluting aspect on the pure water of seva. So seva gradually, the more we think of others, the less we think of ourselves. The more we serve others, the less we serve ourselves. And gradually, because seva not only purifies the mind, it, like Kriya Yoga, purifies the karma. Serving others is one of the most powerful ways of purifying our karma. And so the more we can continually combine these two, meditation and service, they both help to dissolve the sense of ego, the sense I do, I am the doer. I'll just end by saying that one time in Gurgaon, in fact, we were with Swamiji, and he was having breakfast. We were talking about, in fact, the question about how to become a Jivan Mukta. And we were talking about, perhaps the challenges of it and so on. And Swami was eating breakfast, And he paused with his fork midway to his mouth. And he said, the whole of the spiritual path is meant to dissolve the ego. That's done by longer, deeper meditation and seeing God as the doer in everything. That beautiful summation of meditation and service. And then he took his bite, and that was the whole spiritual path in a single sentence. And so balancing these two, Seva starts, maybe it's a very polluted pitcher of water, but it's still water. And then gradually it gets purer and purer until there's no silt whatsoever. And only God is helping God.
Thank you, Jyotish. Well, as you know, as you mentioned, Guru Priya, Jyotish's book is called The Heart of Seva. And that really has two meanings. One is the core of Seva, and one is Seva is an expression from the heart. And we can bring that into anything we do. You can be mopping a floor and be doing it with the sense of, I'm doing this to bring light and love into the environment. You can be disciplining a child who needs it. And if you do it with the understanding that I'm doing this to help the child grow and develop, then that's Seva. And so it's two people can be doing the exact same act, and one can be doing it in the spirit of Seva, and one can be doing in the spirit of I am the doer. I am acting here. And so it's not the action that defines Seva, it's the consciousness behind it. And that consciousness should be a loving offering to God in everything, whatever it is. We could make a whole long list of all the ways we can serve, but the important thing to realize is that to do it with the thought of I am offering this to God, and that God is doing it through me. And again, hearkening back to examples in our life at Ananda, from the Swami's method of training us was in both of these areas. From the very beginning, he gave us the teachings and the techniques of meditation and Kriya Yoga. But then he also, from day one, gave each one of us, you do this, you do that, and he did it not randomly, according to what he saw would be our line of development. And so we were always serving from the beginning. And those who kind of pulled back, didn't want to do it, they drifted off. But those who just dived in, even if it felt like this was way more than I'm capable of doing, it didn't matter. It wasn't about succeeding. It was about willingness to put out energy in loving service of the Guru. And there are so many beautiful stories of people that I've seen in my own life, how people were just transformed through their service. And some of them were important, outwardly important. Some of them, one of the people that I found the most inspiration from was a man who was just a simple kind of a repairman, but he unceasingly was doing things to help others, to make their life more comfortable, even unasked for. And I always felt he was a great saint. And so to just understand wherever you are, if you work in a tech center, still you can see that as Seva. If you're in the medical field, if you work with helping people be well, of course that's Seva. But understand everything. It's not what, it's how. It's how, the attitude with which we do it. And the more we can do everything in our life with that spirit of, this is a loving offering to God. In my own life, I love to cook. And I love to, sometimes it's with guests, sometimes it's just for Jyotish and me, sometimes it's for a greater family. But I try to feel like God, how do I make this the nicest possible offering that I can, and most healthful, most beautiful, most nicely presented, and most filled with love? And for me, it's a joy. I never get tired of it because I do it in that spirit. So it's we need to remember, and we can start from this very moment. I mean, it's evening our time, it's morning your time there. But when you leave the satsang, look at what you have to do in front of you and say, how can I see this as service? And I'll just close with this. One of our most popular programs for people coming to the meditation retreat, the Expanding Light, is our Karma Yoga program. And of course, we train people in meditation and yoga, but then we train them in the spirit of Seva. And I think Jyotish's book is going to be one of the kind of guidebooks for this. But people's lives are changed. People who said, I'm not really interested in meditation so much, but I want to be in a spiritual environment. So they come and they begin serving, and their lives are changed when they understand what service is. And there was one woman who was here a few years ago. She was a very wealthy woman, and her son was living here. And so she came to visit him, and she said, well, I'll take this Karma Yoga program. And she's a very nice woman, a very lovely woman. And at one point, she she commented, because in the Karma Yoga program, they wash dishes, they wash floors, they clean up the guest rooms, everything that needs to be done to run a retreat. And she said to the person leading the program, the Karma Yoga program, she said, at home, I have servants to do all these things, and I don't pay any attention to it. Here, I'm doing it myself, and I never realized it was fun. And it was life-changing for her just to see all these tasks as something that can be done with a higher consciousness. So it's Seva, Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma, doing things without any thought of what I'm getting back. It's truly a transforming path to God.
Thank you. I'm sure many of us testify for what we feel when we serve, as how it starts transforming us. My next question is Seva, you've already touched upon this, but maybe we can go a little deeper into it. Is Seva optional for a disciple, or is it as important as meditation? And can we look at Seva in itself as a meditation? Like when we meditate, there are these 8 stages of the final stages of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, that when we meditate, we at least know that that is our journey eventually. So can we translate Seva or express Seva as something that is in a meditation of its own kind?
Yes, this is actually quite an interesting and somewhat complex topic. First of all, we do need to have both seva and meditation in our life. But we should understand, as Devi said, that seva is more about an attitude than it is about what we do. And so meditation itself can be an act of seva. One time, Master was walking with 2 or 3 disciples in a garden, and his most advanced disciple, Rajasi Janakananda, was meditating there. And Master said to the disciples, said, "Shh, be quiet now." And then they walked past, and when they were out of hearing, Master said, "You have no idea how much it helps this organization to have one person who is able to meditate that deeply." And so meditation itself, when it is done not for self-interest, not like that proud person who eventually left Ananda, but done really in order to merge with God, it can be an act of seva because it opens and it helps others. Seva is really the highest form of seva is to draw God's presence and help that presence of the divine touch and change other people. But that's a rarer case, of course. He was he was a very, very high soul. But for most of us, seva is a way of purifying our consciousness. Now, is seva and meditation to be equated? Yes and no. There are many similarities, but the major difference, especially on our path, is that meditation and our techniques of meditation withdraw the life force from the exterior, from the senses, from the exterior of the body, and from the searchlight of the senses going out and connecting us to the realm of Maya or the dream of God. And so in meditation, we want to internalize that life force and bring it up to the spiritual eye, where if we can do it completely, we will achieve self-realization at that point. Once we are in a state of self-realization, once we are a Jivan Mukta, then we can serve and stay in that high state. But until we can, then service, I would say, is very, very important, even essential for our spiritual growth. But it does not lead to the liberation that is possible by the withdrawal of energy and the merging into God. But having said that, if we just try to get there by meditation alone, most of us aren't able to do that. And so the balance of those two, and especially the more pure our service becomes, the more the dissolving of the ego happens. But the ultimate final step, until we're self-realized, until we're able to stay in the state of a Jivan Mukta or stay in the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, until that time, we still need to practice the techniques of meditation in order to withdraw the consciousness and achieve that high egoless level of connection with God. As I say, service is a great aid in that, but I don't think that service alone can bring us to that high state. In the festival, I'll end with this, in the festival of light that we, in the West, we repeat it every week. There's a line where Babaji and Jesus are together, and Jesus says to Babaji, the lights on the high altar of my church are ill-attended and have been growing dim, though still lit on lower altars of good works. The noble taper of inner communion with the Lord is ill-attended and
Burns low,
and it needs to be lit again. And so what Swami is saying there is that good works, and seva is included, is very important, but it's until there's inner communion, it's a lower altar than deep meditative practice. On the other hand, most of us don't meditate in the sense of getting all the way into dhyana, dharana, and samadhi. So even our meditation is kind of an act of service.
Thank you, Jyotish. You know, I'll share with you, because it's sometimes people wonder, well, how do we create a balance between meditation and service? I'll share with you kind of a pattern that Jyotish and I use. Every morning we meditate, we energize, meditate, and then we get up and go about the service of the day. But we don't just plunge into busy activity. We build a bridge between our period of meditation, where the mind is more inwardly focused and the awareness is not it's not outward. Let's just put it simply that way. And so we do simple tasks, but try to do it, build a bridge so that we feel the same awareness of our higher self that we strive to achieve in meditation, that same awareness of our higher self. We bring it into simple tasks like putting things away, straightening up the meditation room, making the beds, whatever it may be, but to build a bridge between a period of meditation and then your outward activity. Because if you just jump right in, you lose the feeling of what that inner state is. So I really recommend that for people to, and in that transitional period, to really be aware of I am still acting in the world, but my consciousness is interiorized. And that's a very good way to, and then throughout the day, when you get all caught up in the details of life, to just pause and just say, oh, now am I serving? Am I acting from a state of inner peace, of inner calmness? And if you're not, then take a few breaths, bring the consciousness up to the spiritual eye. But it's not something that happens automatically. Swami Kriyananda was an amazing model. Master told him, your life is one of intense activity and meditation. Swami always pointed out he put meditation second, but he was incredibly, his life was almost unbroken service, but he could do it because, and without much fatigue, even in his later years, because he never saw himself as the doer. And that's how he could, I mean, someone, you may be wondering when our books are coming out. They're not going to come out till June, so you can't order them just yet. They have to be, we're done with our part of writing, but they have to be designed and formatted and printed and all that. But they'll be there by the time we get to India. But just to, like Swami would write, he wrote 150 books. I mean, Jyotish and I slaved to write a couple of them, but he could do it because there was just the energy he wrote, that he awakened, that he drew from in deep meditation and Kriya practice. Then he just applied that to meditation without any, I mean, to service without any kind of breaking it up. And that was the secret of him being able to accomplish so much. And he never saw himself as the doer in anything that he did. A talk he gave, a song he wrote, a book he wrote, a community that he created. He always just, and you could feel that when you were with him. There wasn't any sense of personal, I am the doer. You never felt that with him. It was a wonderful model. And we were fortunate when he was writing the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, Sharing Master's interpretation of it. We were visiting him in India at that time, staying in his home with him. And he was in his early 80s at that time, I believe, or late 70s, early 80s. And we were staying in a little bitty room off his office. And we could see the light on his office. It would go on at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, maybe all night. And then you'd see him the next morning, he'd just be fresh and fine. And it was just, you could feel there was that flow of God is flowing through me. I've awakened his presence within me in meditation. And now I can apply that to everything I do.
You know, just add one simple thought, that one thread that runs through both meditation and service in order to make both of them effective is to be completely focused and in the present, to pay attention. One of the first books I read was called Be Here Now. And being here now without the mind going into the past or the future is necessary both for effective service and for effective meditation. So there are many similarities.
Thank you for the insights. Love that you mentioned that prayer from the Festival of Lights. And it's the prayer that Christ went to Babaji with, to send a true teacher to the West that will deepen communion in the seekers. And Master came to give us that meditation and inner stillness from which we can express it in so many different ways, including Seva. So if we can talk a little bit about the right attitudes to bear in mind when we serve. You know, Swamiji's life is a guide, a manual for anyone that wants to tune into how to serve. So as Master said, no more moods, Walter, at one point of time. And Swamiji writes all of that for all of us to kind of, our real experience to reconcile with it and keep going. So if you can just help us clarify, what are the attitudes we can keep in mind when we are trying to offer Guru Seva?
I'll touch on a few that Swamiji exemplified. The first is to be other-oriented, so that you're really focused on the other person, not on yourself. And he even gave some techniques to try to feel a resonance in your heart and your spiritual eye when you're talking with someone else, and send them, feel the love and caring that you have for them, and then send that from your spiritual eye to their spiritual eye. And that can be done even without words. So making a true, genuine connection with another person. And that helps with self-forgetfulness. Another attitude that is very important in service is friendship, that you want to break down. One danger in service is you can begin to think, I am the person helping. I'm the superior here. I'm the one who is giving the service. And that just increases the ego. So if you can think of that you're just an act of friendship, and just it's God serving God, as Master put it. And I was present when many times when the power of Swami's friendship just absolutely transformed a situation. Another attitude that's very important is gratitude. Gratitude opens the heart and it connects you with other people. So if you can serve with a sense not oh, this is my duty, I'm grimly doing it, but with a sense of being grateful to God for the opportunity to let Him flow through you to help another person. They've found, I'll just end with this, they've found that expressing gratitude can be extremely therapeutic for many problems. So one of the experiments I mentioned in my book is that if you write for 3 weeks, if you write a daily letter of gratitude to someone, and they actually suggest that you write a letter of gratitude to somebody for something that you feel grateful for them, and you write a letter of gratitude for somebody that you're having difficulty with. You don't even have to send the letters, it's the act of writing them. They've found that follow-up months later, when people have received therapy, say for depression or stress or anxiety, that writing those letters of gratitude is just as effective as therapy. And so gratitude is a very important aspect of Seva. But in my book, I mentioned many, many attitudes, but just touching on these three gives a sense of it.
And I'll just add one other one, just to, in whatever the action is you're doing, just have the thought, I'm trying to do this to be of help to others. Whether they're aware of it or not, it doesn't matter. In fact, we often talk about being secret service agents, just to be just helping people without them even knowing where it came from. There was a beautiful story that we heard Mother Teresa of Calcutta share about one of the nuns in her order, that this was a young woman and she had gone out to be of service to others, and she found this man dying on the street. Of his body was rotting. It was, and as she lifted his body up, his skin on his back just peeled off, and she brought him to the convent hospital, cleaned him, washed him, put him in a nice bed, cared for him, and then he died. And Mother Teresa asked her, well, before he died, he said to the nun, the young nun, "I lived like an animal, but now I am dying like an angel." And Mother Teresa asked her, "How did you feel when you were caring for that, cleaning his body, and it was so rotten and maggots were in it and so forth?" She said, "Mother, when I took care of that man, I was thinking of serving Christ, and I never felt Christ's presence so strongly as in that act of service." So to that, God is, he wants to help people. And if we think of ourselves as his agents, his Secret Service agents, that we're just, God saw that man lying on the street, dying in pain and alone, and he sent that his agent, that young nun, to care for him. And she felt God's presence as she did it. So if we can just, whatever we're doing, think about helping others. And I'll just close with this. Our time is running to an end. I think the world is, I think we all see, I don't just think, the world is in a very, very difficult state right now, politics and economics. And it's very painful to see what the attitudes that are prevalent in the world today. And so I invite you to find ways. It doesn't have to be outward helping others, but whatever you're doing in your own life, the patterns that you have, do it with the spirit of God is flowing through me to bring his light into the world as I cook this meal, as I prepare this order at the restaurant, as I serve in this office. But God is flowing through me to help others. And this is how we begin to bring God's presence more into this world, which it's here already, but because of people's egotism and wrong attitudes, the light of God gets diminished. And so it's our job to let the light of God shine through our own life, through our own service. And I think it's more important now than ever before.
Thank you, Devi ji. Thank you, Jyotish ji. We often say Ananda is built on divine friendships, that the dynamics of group seva, that harmony and cooperation and God serving God. So thank you for touching on those points. Maybe as we, reach towards the end of our conversation, we can talk a little bit about the channel is blessed by that which flows through it, the healing power of Guru Seva. That when we have life's challenges, sometimes we steer away, let things get a little better, then I'll come back to the Seva. But how can we have a different relationship as the Seva being the light that actually helps us more in challenging times? If we can touch a little bit on that healing power of Guru Seva.
Yeah, there are obvious aspects and there are subtle aspects. There was a young woman here in the early days of Ananda, and she was a lovely young woman, but for a period of time, her hands became covered with warts. And she tried applying some creams and things, but nothing seemed to help. She went to an Ayurvedic healer, and he said, just simply avoid milk products. And she may already have been
No, it was don't mix milk and garlic.
Okay, don't mix milk and garlic, which, she probably wasn't doing much of that anyway. And feed the birds. And within 2 weeks, all of the warts just began dissolving and flowing away. I think it was feed the birds. I think it was the act of seva, the act of allowing God's compassion and care for even animals, even birds, creatures, to flow through you, that is innately healing. And so many times we saw Swami, people would come to him for counseling and come with all these problems. And he would end up, his advice to them would be, I would like you to help in the schools, do a story hour for the children in the schools, read them a story and discuss it with them. Now, the story wasn't important. It was the act of doing something for other people that got people out of, where do problems come from? Problems always are connected to our ego. And so anything that we do that dissolves the sense of ego or the tightness around our ego, and service is one of the very best ways to do that.
And yes, it's such an important topic, and just to remember that God can flow through us in anything that we do. And that's why in meditation, we feel his presence. And then in service, we express that presence. And so and then as if we, throughout the day, if we're feeling God flowing through us, then when we come back to meditation at the end of the day, then we haven't ever left our meditation experience. So it's really a very nice amplifying circle. It gets stronger and stronger. And you get to the point where, and we saw this in Swami too, his life was one of constant service in big ways and small ways to people. He could, once we were, and people recognized it in him. What did they see in him? Strangers. They would see there was something special about him, because even in the way he moved, it was with a sense of God's presence. It was beautiful to watch. Once we were in India on a plane with Swami, and it was crowded, so we weren't sitting next to him. He was sitting behind us. And as we were disembarking, he was walking down the central aisle. He was dressed in Western clothes, didn't look like anyone unusual. And there were two gentlemen standing behind or sitting behind us, and they just looked at Swami walking down the aisle, and they saw that he had waved to us, and they said, "Who is that man?" And then we said, "That's Swami Kriyananda." And these gentlemen said, "India needs more people like him." And just his walking down the aisle, you know, it carried with it a sense of peace, of purpose. And so just to, again, you'll be going about your day now. Some of you, we can see Ananda Delhi, Ananda Chandigarh, and there was Hyderabad was also on the screen. When the satsang is done, you'll have to clean up your center. You can do it in two ways. You can do it, okay, you do this, you do that, but with willpower and kind of bossing people around, or you can do it all with a sense of unity and joint purpose. And that's, again, the service in a community, in a sangha, in a center. By mutual service, you formed bridges of God consciousness, of divine friendship, that are the deepest bonds you will form in this life. I remember last year when we did the program in Gargaon, there were 70 or 80 people that had been serving all night long. And it was so beautiful. There was such a wonderful energy in the room, in the center when we came in. So I hope I didn't pull Ananda Delhi off the screen when I mentioned them. They disappeared. Maybe they're shy, they're hiding. But in any case, serving with other people is very, very important and very powerful too.
I go into this in the book on Heart of Service in much more detail, but the thoughts we have are like an electrical pulse. Master said that they have a reality. Thought has a reality, just as electric energy has an energy. And electric energy moving through a line creates a magnetic field. Our thoughts create a magnetic field, and when we serve together in an uplifted way, that magnetism melds together, uplifting everyone, and it spreads out into the environment around us. Um, uh, there are studies, and I mentioned this again in the book, that an act of service helps people 3 degrees of difference away. So if you serve somebody, they're more likely to serve another person, and that person is yet more likely to serve yet another person. And so one act of service spreads and spreads and spreads. And when we have a whole group of people doing that, it has a great magnetism to help uplift society.
Now, before we close, I just want to do a little show and tell. Most of you know we're sitting in our living room now, and on the wall behind us is one of Jyotish's paintings of Master. On the wall behind me is another painting of Jyotish's Master in Samadhi. But then there's a painting that I think we want to show Krishna behind your head.
Oh,
So there's this is another painting of Jyotish by Divine Mother, but this is a painting, a beautiful painting of Krishna that Guru Priya gave us. And we see it every day.
every day.
And we think of you.
Yes.
That's a blessing coming straight from your living room to Kolkata. And just want to conclude on the note that both of you, with how you serve, are leading by example. And you see so many hearts coming on the screen right now. February is the Valentine's month. We express love of a different kind in Ananda, Guru's love. And really, Heart of Seva, you've opened our hearts to wanting to go deep in our journeys of Guru Seva. Thank you for all that you do in the amazing paintings, the blogs you write, the books, the satsang that you do for all of us globally. We join and receive from you. We are eternally grateful. Maybe we can take a moment to do a gallery review, and Jyotishi and Deviji can see everyone that's joined online. Thank you, friends. Thank you to the tech support team of Kolkata. Davide is helping from Sardinia, and our Kolkata brothers are here as well.
He is in Russia. Davide, buongiorno.
Yes, sì, buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
E come va cose in Sardegna?
Tutto bene, grazie.
Senta.
So much love. Thank you.
Nice to see everyone. Oh,
So good to see everyone.
Hello. Oh gosh. Hello, Astrid from Mumbai. Nice to see you.
We have 132 friends joining online, and some of are from centers, so many gathered in each of those windows. Such a blessing to be together. Thank you, Jyotishi, Deviji, and everyone.
Preeti, nice to see you, friend.
and many people we've known for a long time. Dear
And-
friends, hello, Devashi.
And we just had it. Oh, you've got a Jyotish painting in the background. And so do Nandita and Ahmed. We just had a nice visit yesterday. We had tea with Kamal from Gargan. He's visiting America in Ananda Village. So he came over and we had tea together.
Oh, there's Ananda Gurgan.
Oh, yeah. So Kamal was with us yesterday.
Okay, dear friends, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again at our next conversations, and then we'll see you live, we hope. There will be a celebration for Swamiji's centennial in India. The date hasn't been set yet, but
Probably late September.
yeah, late September. Diana and the team are working on figuring out when and where that will happen. And so I hope that we will be able to see many, many of you then.
Okay. May
We're so
Master
looking forward.
love flow through you in your meditation, in your service, and may it uplift all the people whose lives you touch. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Thank you so much. Pranams.